begins with a narration from a really old book. A long time ago, vampires, werewolves, witches, and trolls roamed the world, spreading fear and terror among humans. However, as centuries passed, these fearsome monsters gradually became peace-loving creatures who no longer spread terror. With passing time, some of these creatures evolved themselves to live among humans undetected, while others fled to various secret locations all over the world. The narration then changes to the present time, where we learn about a young vampire named Vlad Tepes and his father. They're headed for Krailsfelden town at the personal invitation of the town's mayor, so that Vlad can start his first year at a renowned magic school called Riffraff Academy. After driving through the forest for a while, the pair comes across a stone bridge. Suddenly, an old crooked man named Quasimodo appears in their car window and asks for their documents before they can enter the magical place. Quasimodo has been serving as the guard of the bridge for over 1,000 years. He then takes out an old book and reads a prophecy about Vlad, who's supposed to be the savior of Krailsfelden. After checking their documents, the old man allows Vlad and his father to enter the magical land. Soon the pair rides into the magical town of Krailsfelden, which seems to be of the medieval era. On the town streets, Vlad's father, Barnabas, almost runs over a cyclist, but stops at the last moment. Moments later, a constable arrives at the scene to investigate the incident. Vlad is seen wearing a dark crystal around his neck, which seems to be behaving on its own, doing magic tricks such as changing the constable's hat and enlarging the tire of the bicycle. However, Vlad is completely ignorant about the crystal and has no idea about its doings. Soon, Vlad and Barnabas arrive at their new home in this town, which seems a bit odd. Still, Barnabas is fascinated with the old building and starts planning its renovation. But Vlad is concerned about this new place and the new school that he'll be joining soon. Later that night, we see that Vlad has already unpacked all of his goods and has gone to sleep. After a while, Barnabas is met by a tax official who's come to give him a list of bills and taxes that he needs to pay before settling in. The next day, Vlad arrives at the school for his first day. At the entrance, he sees a group of 3 students, collectively called the Pig Pack, bullying one of the freshers named Wolf. But Wolf is soon saved by a group of elves, Faye and her friends. Following that incident, Vlad and Wolf quickly become friends. Meanwhile, Barnabas arrives at the town hall to file a tax complaint against the list of bills that he received last night. However, the lady at the town hall named Ms. Suckemeyer informs him the tax list is mandatory and that every new inhabitant must pay it. On the other hand, Vlad is met by the school janitor, Hannapel, who seems to know his identity. He urges Vlad not to miss the opening speech on his first day at school. He then enters the main hall of the school, where the headmistress is reciting her opening speech on the importance of the number 7. Back at the town hall, Barnabas is met by the mayor of the town. The mayor wishes to buy the ancestral crystal of the Tepes family, called the Blood Fragment, which is currently worn by Vlad. The mayor suggests that he can sell the family artifact to pay for the huge tax sum. Back at school, the headmistress calls the new students of the year 7 on stage one by one. After a while, Barnabas arrives there to accompany his son on his big day at school. Soon, the headmistress waves a magical spell from her book, which transforms all the New Year's students into their true forms. This results in Wolf turning into an actual werewolf like his father, Faye into a fairy, and Vlad into a young vampire. However, Faye loses control on her flight and falls on Vlad, causing him to vomit in front of everyone. Also, it's revealed that Wolf is allergic to fur, which enrages his father. We then go through a montage of all 3 magic kids on their beds dealing with their own battles as their first day of school didn't go well. Later that night, Ms. Suckemeyer from the town hall arrives outside Tepes's house in an attempt to steal the blood fragment necklace. She extends one of her hands and reaches out into Vlad's room in search of the necklace. Eventually, she manages to steal the piece and returns back to the town where the mayor's waiting for her. However, when the mayor touches the crystal, the blood fragment magically disappears and returns to its original place inside Vlad's room. The mayor then reveals that the blood fragment is protected by a recall spell, which can only be obtained if its owner hands it over of his free will. The next day at school, we see that the trio is still made fun of by other kids. The Pig Pack pretends to be covered in fake blood, which causes Vlad to vomit once again. Meanwhile, the whole school is seen watching meme videos of Faye's flight crash, which upsets her. Frustrated with his situation, Vlad takes off and decides to leave the town. On his way, he meets Faye and Wolf, who are trying to run away from the town as well. We then see a mysterious cloaked figure watching over the trio as they make their way through the forest. On their way out, the group is met by the guard of the bridge, Quasimodo, who doesn't allow them to leave. Quasimodo informs them that they cannot leave there until they fulfill their prophecy of saving Krailsfedden and getting rid of the devil from the town. When the group insists on leaving, Quasimodo changes into a giant troll in an attempt to scare them away. Moments later, Mr. Hannibal arrives and saves the kids from the troll. In the next scene, Mr. Hannibal takes the kids to his home, where he reveals that he is a wizard. On his bookshelf, the trio learns about the Book of All Knowledge, also known as Liber Omnis Scientia. However, the book is guarded in the forbidden library of the magical school, and the kids must retrieve it in order to unfold the prophecy. On their way back, the trio talk about their lives and get to know each other even better. Soon they reach the forbidden library and lock the door on their way in. Inside, they find a map that can lead them to the book. However, the library is guarded by a black hound with red eyes. Wolf manages to distract the hound, while Vlad and Faye make their way toward the book. Later, Vlad uses the ultrasound technique used by bats to locate the hidden pillars. Meanwhile, back at his home, Barnabas has met Ms. Selkemeyer, who sprays a love potion on him. As a result, he involuntarily obeys every command given by Ms. Selkemeyer. She orders him to convince his son, Vlad, to sell the blood fragment. But Barnabas informs her that Vlad has gone missing ever since he ran away from school. Back at the forbidden library, Vlad guides Faye to find the book while she flies closing her eyes. After retrieving the book, the group quickly runs back to the exit while the Black Hound chases them. At the town hall, the mayor and Ms. Selkemeyer learn the whereabouts of Vlad and his group and are surprised to see that they've obtained the infamous Book of All Knowledge. Through the book, the group learns about Lord Lucifer the Terrible, whose only goal is to turn back time so that all vampires, werewolves, and other creatures change back into evil monsters. However, the trio is unable to finish the prophecy as the page is torn off from the book. Meanwhile, Ms. Selkemeyer retains the reverse curse from her potion shelf and sends it after Vlad, Wolf, and Faye. The spell quickly finds its way inside the bodies of the trio, which causes them to change their speech to the exact opposite of what they're actually trying to say. After arriving home, Barnabas, under Selkemeyer's spell, urges Vlad to sell the blood fragment, but Vlad is unable to refuse him because he himself is under the reverse spell. Next, Faye informs the other two that they've been cursed by the reverse spell, and the group decides to investigate the Lucifer issue on their own. Later that night, we see Vlad reading the Book of All Knowledge in order to gain as much information as possible. Soon he falls asleep and eventually wakes up the next day. When the group reunites once again, each of them reveals some valuable information that they had gathered a day earlier. Putting everything together, when the clock strikes 13 at the town hall, the dark crystal, also known as the blood fragment, can turn back time and change magical beings into evil once again. To further investigate, the group goes into the town hall, but they're stopped by the constable. However, since vampires cannot be captured on a screen, Vlad manages to sneak past the security cameras and the constable. Inside, we see that the dark crystal is drawn by the tower and it serves as a guide for Vlad. Upon reaching the top of the tower, Vlad discovers a large array of the same crystal worn by him. The blood fragment appears to be the missing piece from the large collection of the crystal. Soon, Vlad senses that something is not right and runs away from the building. Meanwhile, the mayor and Selkemeyer sense the presence of the blood fragment and run up the tower to check. The mayor then reveals that he's been collecting fragments of the crystals for the last 1,000 years, and now he needs only the last piece owned by Vlad. After being united with Wolf and Faye, the group discovers that the crystal has the power to change things into their alternate versions in the past. This causes Vlad's backpack to change into an old one, and even the Book of All Knowledge is changed into a new one, just as it existed in the past. Finally, the trio is able to complete the prophecy written in the book as the torn pages are restored. The group then learns that the mayor is actually Lord Lucifer himself. On the day of the solar eclipse, that is today, he'll be able to cast the light of dark crystal upon everyone, making every citizen of the town his slave. Back at the tower, the mayor and Ms. Selkemeyer learn that the trio is on their way to the Troll Bridge once again. Vlad concludes that in order to take the crystal away from the mayor, he must leave the magical town. On his way out, Quasimodo warns him that once he leaves, he won't be able to return back. Just as Vlad is about to cross the bridge, the evil mayor appears and captures Faye. Having no options left, Vlad and Wolf return to the town hall tower to save their friend Faye. Next, we see the mayor, Faye, Vlad, and Wolf on the top of the tower. The mayor then demands the blood fragment from Vlad, or else he'll kill Faye. Without thinking for a second, Vlad voluntarily gives away the blood fragment, just as the solar eclipse casts over the entire town. Meanwhile, Barnabas learns about the evil mayor's plan and has a confrontation with the witch, Ms. Selkemeyer. Back on the tower, the mayor manages to put together the last piece of the crystal as the red light shines all around the tower. Just as the clock strikes 13, the blood fragment vanishes and returns back to Mr. Hennepel's place. Vlad then reveals that, before arriving at the tower, he handed over the crystal to Mr. Hennepel, making him the rightful owner. Enraged by his failure at the hands of the three kids, the mayor lashes out at the trio one by one. Seeing his friends in a miserable condition, Wolf is furious and changes into a giant werewolf. With his newly found strength, he proves himself to be an equal match for the evil mayor. Meanwhile, Barnabas manages to defeat Ms. Zuckermeyer and quickly leaves for the tower. On the other hand, Wolf's allergies show up once again as he changes back to his human form. Eventually, Faye is able to heal Vlad as he regains consciousness and changes into a vampire. During their final confrontation, Vlad tricks the mayor into shooting the array of dark crystal, which fires back at him. At last, the mayor himself changes into a crystal array that bursts immediately. In this way, Vlad, Faye, and Wolf, the unlikely heroes, were able to defeat the devil by overcoming their individual fears. Later, Mr. Hennepel arrives to return the blood fragment to Vlad. As the group is making their way towards the school, they're confronted by the pig pack once again. However, they easily manage to evade them this time by turning them against each other. In the last scene of the movie, Vlad's mother emerges from the blood fragment crystal and warns him of the upcoming danger, the Night Hunters. The movie ends.